Hi, my name is Stewart Fleming and welcome to Gigantic Goals, Go Big or Go Home. This is an ASBAS, Australian Small Business Advisory Services webinar. It's being recorded tonight on the 7th of April 2021. If you're playing along at home and watching at home, sorry, you can't ask me questions in the chat window. But for those that are here with us tonight, you certainly can, and we're going to be doing some very interesting things tonight. Gigantic Goals is one of the ones, one of my most enjoyable, I think, presentations, because it really gets at the heart of what are we trying to achieve and how can we go big? How can we even go bigger? So I'm going to move reasonably quickly through so I can get to questions and we can do some exercises. So hang on, and if you do, I would suggest that you have a pen and paper handy so you can jot down your own notes and see how you can create some gigantic goals for yourself. All right, let's go forward. So tonight, what I'm going to do is we'll go through what a gigantic goal is. We'll look at some building blocks for what they are. So some examples of what it might look like, some top tools that I use for gigantic goals. There's a little group exercise, but it's going to be because we're doing this in a webinar rather than a workshop. This will be a take home. And then, of course, because I'm a coach, there's homework. I'm very keen on making sure that I give as much value in the time that you spend with me as possible. My goal being is if I can at least double the time that you've spent with me or make that in profits down the track, then it was a worthwhile hour. So I do have this set for an hour, but let's see if I can get finished early and we can all go have some food. So gigantic goals. So I first started, and for those that are watching along at home, you'll be able to see the camera hopefully as well. This is my copy of the very first, one of the very first books I read on personal development and growth. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. I have about 15 different copies of it because I just absolutely love it. And I actually got to a point where I couldn't read it anymore. I'd have to put it down because I would create so much chaos in my life that I couldn't keep up. And so gigantic goals sit at the end. These are the inspirational. You'll hear people talk about BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. That's where gigantic goals live. But there's really a whole series of goals that lead up to that. So we have the stepping stone goals. These are the short-term, what I can achieve today, what I can achieve tomorrow, what I can achieve this week. Short-term, what can I achieve this week, next week, this month, in the next 6 months? Long-term goals, what am I going to achieve for this year? What am I going to achieve over the next 2 years? Lifetime goals. These are almost without a time frame. So you might have a lifetime goal of being able to bungee jump. Great, fantastic. There's no timeline on that. So it's not a short-term or a long-term, it's a lifetime goal. And finally, those big, gigantic goals. These are the world changers. These are your legacy goals. So if you have a legacy goal already, feel free to type it in the chat window. But really, what they tell me for webinars versus workshops, and this one is a webinar, is that I'm not supposed to be as interactive, but I love interaction. So I'm going to, if I see stuff appear, I'm going to respond. And there is a Q&A window if you want more than one person to respond. So how do you create gigantic goals and where do they sit? So the first step that I find is you're going to start small. So really having a look and understanding where you are now gives you some advantages in setting some gigantic goals. So if you wanted to conquer world hunger, fantastic, great goal. It's certainly gigantic. How are you going to do it based on where you are now? If you don't know where you are now, and this comes with all goal setting, the very first thing that we do in any business that I coach is we work out where the hell they are right now. No airy-fairy, oh, I think I'm, no. Specifically, based on the numbers that you've got, prove to me that we know where you are. And that might be small. That's okay. Everything starts small. If you're an acorn or a giant oak, at some point in that, to get to a giant oak, you had to start as an acorn. So it's okay to work out that you are starting small, but that's all right. But you have to know where you are. So if you have a particular goal that you have in your mind, if you've already got a big, hairy, audacious goal, the best way to even start to do that, work out how to get there, is to work out where you are right now. The next step is, once you know where you are, and you know, because we now already have a direction, let's assume we have a gigantic goal, and if you don't, I'll cover that in a little bit. But let's say we have a gigantic goal and we know where we are. Now we know in the direction that we're going ahead. So for me, I'm in Logan, and if I said, hey, I want you to drive to the Gold Coast, you'd drive south. But if I didn't know where I was and I just drove south, I could be heading to Melbourne from Sydney. And I know that sounds like a pretty crazy example, but this is how a lot of businesses run. They set directions without actually knowing where they are to start with. You've got to know where you start, because the size of the solution depends on the size of the problem. Sorry, I'm just reading comments here coming in. Helping humanity, problem solving, social justice issues, animal welfare. Cool. So what I would suggest is understand one specific big goal. So gigantic goals, could you imagine trying to take on Godzilla, right? Gigantic goal. But if there are 5 Godzillas, you're just being silly now. There's no chance of that. So what I would suggest is pick something very specific that you want to achieve, but start by knowing where you are. The next step, let's see, is to ask some questions. So in order to get where you want to go, in order to achieve what you want to achieve, there are people that are going to help you along the way. Now, I cover this a lot more in other webinars and other topics, but I'll give you the short version of this one, is that where possible, ask a person. All right. Now, you can Google as much as you like, and Google is fantastic. Every piece of human knowledge ever created exists in Google. It is one short click away, but you have to know what to ask. And the problem is you don't even know what to ask yet. But if you ask a person, they'll understand and interpret your question and give you answers, or at least point you in the direction of someone who does know. So the moment you think you're scared of something, it's because you have a lack of knowledge. If you are heading towards want to put yourself into place for a gigantic goal, then you're going to need a lot of knowledge. What you need to know is, the first question is, what don't I know? And the second question is, who would know that? Then you ask. People are really keen to help you achieve your goals. So ask regularly, ask often, be specific about what you ask. But this is the next step in gigantic goals. The first step was to understand where you are. The second step is to ask lots and lots of questions. The third step is to start to gather your resources. You're going to need lots of resources to achieve gigantic goals. Now, some of these resources might be simple, like a logo or a website. Some of them might be complicated. The computing power of 7 million computers. Okay, not sure how I'm going to get that. In fact, I'm not entirely sure what the gigantic goal I need that for is. It's probably world domination of some sort. Whatever it happens to be, start to make a list of the resources that you're going to need. And this works for gigantic goals as well as small goals. But the thing is, with gigantic goals, there's a passion behind it. This is why I love this one so much. By using a gigantic goal, you're touching somebody's passion. And lots of people can get behind gigantic goals. If you say, I want to help one homeless person find a house, well, that's fantastic. And it's very noble. But if you want to solve homelessness for all of Australia, you're going to get a lot more people that jump on behind you to try and help. And it's not just the not-for-profits, and it's not just social economy, if you want to take on Apple as an Australian company, you'll get lots of support. If you think you can build a better iPhone, if you think you can build a better Tesla, if you think you can build something that for profit, create a drug that, you know, melts away fat or stops people eating. It's the big goals that people get behind. It's the big goals that investors get behind. It's the big goals that your staff will get behind. And it's the big goals that get you out of bed every single morning. And this is, again, I say, that's why I love this one so much. I did try and call it Megalomania for dummies, but they wouldn't let me. Gigantic goals is as close as we get. So start to gather your resources, and hopefully now you're starting to think, okay, I can understand what kind of resources I might need. I can understand because I know where I am and I know who to ask and I know what I've got, then I'm well on my way. Probably don't need anything else. There is something else. There's a couple of other things that you need. The next thing you need is to be happy doing it. And I cannot stress this enough. If you go big and you're miserable, you're dead in the water. It just doesn't work. You got to have fun with it. Gigantic goals should be exciting. A big goal that is just boring or it bores you is not going to make anyone excited for you. It's not going to go anywhere. So it should be fun. It should be exciting. You should be happy doing it. You should do it because you want to do it. I have a number of particular gigantic goals, and you know, I'm currently working on them. I'm not going to go through them now, but I am currently working them, and I do them because I think there's a great need for it. And I love hearing the stories that come out of the work that I'm doing for some of my gigantic goals. So be happy doing it. It really is super, super, super important. So much so that I would write down why you find that particular goal exciting. What is it for you personally? So I've got a question. The general theme for my big goals? I have big goals on everything I do. So Coaching Life magazine I started in 2015. It has just been converted to multilingual, and I am launching editions in 4 different countries around the world. The newspaper that I run will launch. So we've launched it locally, and we have plans to launch another edition by the end of the year. The fish store that I'm running, the fish spa, we're opening. We've got 3 stores open now. We're franchising. The intention is to go big and cover Australia in fish spas. The legal office, we now have offices in every state in the country, with people working in at least one person, I think, in every office. I may have a problem in Tasmania, but that's, you know, all of my goals are massive. I don't do small things. I don't see the point. If you're going to do something, go big. And what I have found over the years is big goals are just a fraction harder than small goals. It's actually not that much harder. So if you want to, if I was going to say create say the magazine, let's go with the magazine. It's a nice easy one. It's sitting right in front of me. So Coaching Life is a magazine, comes out quarterly. We've got subscribers around the world, and what we're trying to do is now create local content. So we'll be opening up into multi-languages and actually creating editions in different countries. So to do 26 countries or to do 1 extra country, what's the difference? Well, actually not a lot. We were going to generate processes anyway. The processes probably just need to be a little bit more robust. We need to be able to take multiple currencies. We need to have multiple languages, but we're going to do another language anyway. So it's just a small step more to go global. Do you see how that works? So any of your particular goals that you're thinking about right now, and for those playing along at home, I hope you've got a particular goal in mind. And if you don't, go and sit by yourself quietly until you work one out. Loneliness creates creativity. It's really, really cool. So being alone is actually one of the best tools for creativity, as well as variety is the other one, obviously. But this isn't that particular, this isn't the creativity webinar, Stu. Let's go back to gigantic goals. Hopefully you have a gigantic goal that you've got in your mind, and you can now see how you're going to be happy and excited doing it. And every aspect of this should have some measure of enjoyment for you. Now, people will say, well, you can't be happy with everything. Well, actually, you can. You can choose to be happy about all of it. And there might be bits you do not enjoy, but because I enjoy the overall benefit of the project or the gigantic goal I'm heading towards, I'm quite okay to do the other stuff. On a balance of things, I'm actually enjoying myself. So do you see how that works? You might do something unpleasant, but because overall it's because of something you really love, you're still enjoying it. It's one less thing that has to be done. I'm happy with that. Your mindset is the big clicker. So this is where I'm saying be happy. Get your mindset into that understanding exactly why it drives you. One of the things with coaching life, and I can tell you for myself, I've got this little 1 minute soapbox, and if you permit me, I'll jump on that soapbox right now and give it to you. If you take a group of kids and you give them a soccer ball and you put them out in the field, they'll kick the ball around for a while, then they'll get in a fight, then they'll go home and they'll watch TV. Maybe they'll go back again, but maybe they won't. But you put them out on the field as a coach, with a coach, and they become a team. And as a team, they get to learn social skills. They get to increase their fitness because they keep coming back to the sport. They learn competition, they learn to lose, they learn to win. They become better academically because we know that with better fitness comes better academics. They become better social members. And that's just because we put a coach with a team. What if we could put a coach with every small business in the country? What would that do? Could you imagine if every person who graduated from an MBA had to spend a year working with 3 different businesses? That would completely change the economy. Coaching is not just a fad. Coaching is going to change the world. And now I'll get off my soapbox. But you can see, for me, why do I do Coaching Life? Why did I create the magazine? Because I believe that coaching can absolutely change the planet. And all we need is those coaches just to be a little bit better. So when it gets tough and I run into a problem, for example, distribution, or people that stock the magazine say we don't want to stock this anymore, you're just wasting our time. It's fine. I'll find another way. I have enjoyed the journey and I will continue to enjoy the journey. And if I stop enjoying it, I'll stop doing it. So understanding your gigantic goals, that 90% of this is going to come out of your head. So you better make sure your head is in the right space. I have a presentation coming up on overcoming overwhelm and planning and time management. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these, but all of these come back to this. You apply them in gigantic ways to achieve very, very cool stuff. Lastly, be all you can be. Use the tools that you've got. Use the resources. Use the people that you've got. Spread that particular mindset that you have about why you're so passionate for this thing. Be able to explain it very easily. This is, for me, this is that step that I try to get to with all of my massive goals, that I'm just living them. So there's, and you'll gather more resources on the way, for sure. You'll gather more people and you'll find more questions, and you'll keep going back to that thought of why am I doing this? And that's why I suggest you write it down. Don't leave it to chance. Don't let it sit in your memory and say, I'll remember. No, write it down. Stick it in big letters on the wall. That way everybody who comes into your space can see it. Shout about it at every opportunity. Don't let it go. But then be in it, enjoy it. This is cool. All right, I'll move on. So some top tools for goal setting. First one is language. And I know that those of you who are looking for specific tools, don't fret. I always give some tech tools as well as some other types of tools, but the first one is your language. One of the first things that I notice in some of the people I work with is they say, "Oh well, you know, I have to do the books." No, you don't. No one's holding a gun to your head. You don't actually have to do the books. You want to do the books because you will want to avoid going to jail. That's a warn. You don't have to. And Stu, you're just being pedantic now. Go on, dude. No, I'm not. It changes the way you look at stuff. If you say I have to versus I want to, they are very, very different things. So check out your language. I have to do this. No, you don't. I want to do this. Fantastic. There's an outcome I want, and so I want to do this because it will get me an outcome that I'm looking for and help me towards my gigantic goal. Use massive language. If you ring me up and you say, "Stu, how you going?" I'll say, "Good, great, excellent, fabulous, but I think I can do better." So standard, it just rolls off my tongue now because it's my big language. Good, great, excellent, fabulous. Or at least that's what my press people tell me. Good, great, excellent, fabulous. How do you say, "Oh, not bad"? Are you kidding me? You're not bad, that's it? Does that mean you actually are good, or you're just not sure? Use your language to your advantage. You reinforce what you say to yourself. Now, I may not be good, great, excellent, fabulous, but if I keep saying it, it makes it true. Okay? So use your language very specifically. One of the biggest tools I have in my arsenal is the word yet. Haven't done this yet. I don't know about how to do that yet. See how yet changes everything. It changes what you say. Everybody who has done anything had to learn how to do it, right? Nobody was born driving a car or flying a plane or making a chair. Everybody's had to learn it. So if everyone can learn it, then so can I. I just haven't learnt it yet. Can I be at peace in nirvana and happy all the time? Yes. Am I there? Not yet. But that's work in progress. So just have a look at that. Talk as if it's already happening. So this is another thing in that language. And this works for sales. It works in setting vision for your staff, for investors. Imagine a world where blah, blah, blah. Imagine a world where every coach could achieve 10% more. Now, in Australia, there is 460,000 people who identify with the word coach. That's more than all of the plumbers, electricians, lawyers, doctors and dentists put together. So imagine if they could just be 10% better. What would that do? So see how I'm trying to forward predict stuff. I'm trying to say things have already happened this way. I really appreciate that you're going to be able to help me with this. I haven't said I will yet. Yeah, but I appreciate that you're probably going to. It's a bit cheeky, but you're using your language, your positive language to help guide the situations through. Always take 100% responsibility. Nothing happens that isn't your fault. Now, I do get people who push back on that, and I get that maybe you're not ready for it yet, but if you are, grab it with both hands. If the sun comes up, it's your fault. If it rains and floods, it's your fault. Everything is your fault. It has to be. It's the only way that you can get any kind of control. So if you're trying to do a gigantic goal and everything is everyone else's fault, then you're waiting for everybody else to come to the party to fix the problem. If everything is your fault, including the rain, then you can do something about it. And your brain will say, right, well, for some reason I was responsible. I could have prepared for rain better. So therefore, I can now do something about it. You will not achieve gigantic goals unless you can take 100% responsibility. Now, sure, don't take responsibility for the rain if you don't want to, but you get my point. If you look at others and you look for them for the solution, then you're not setting yourself up for success. All right, maybe I'm belaboring the point, but I just think this idea of language is, we are the storytelling monkey. We are at the moment the peak of evolution, certainly on this planet, unless you believe the alien conspiracy theorists. Let's not go there. So let's assume that we are. And you know why we got there? Is because we tell each other stories. We tell stories about ourselves. We tell stories about things. You cannot stand on the shoulders of giants unless you tell stories about them. It's impossible. You cannot build a light bulb in one lifetime. You need several lifetimes. And the only way that happens is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And we do that with stories. Stories tell us everything. And so this language is so massively important. I could spend a day telling you about how important language is, but just assume it is and pull out those big words for yourself and start fitting them into your vocabulary. Use them at every opportunity. Talk in big words. No, I don't mean anti-constabulary, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not talking about tongue twisters. I'm talking about big, all-encompassing, gigantic words. Right, what else do you need? Well, you need some confidence. Quite obviously, you know, I might sound pretty confident, but I've had to conjure that from somewhere. Okay, so understanding where you get your confidence from. If you're not entirely sure about your own confidence, or you are fearful of certain things, have a look. I actually run a Conjuring Confidence webinar by Weirdly. Because it was some requirement. People wanted to know how to be more confident. Serious sleep. You need to sleep. Why is sleep so important? Because sleep allows you to make good decisions. Willpower is an inexhaustible resource that you replenish with sleep, good sleep. So serious sleep is a way of ensuring that you can cope with living on the edge of overwhelm, which is, if you're going to do a gigantic goal, you're going to live on the edge of overwhelm. It's an awesome place to be. I live on it all the time. But you need serious sleep to be able to handle what's being thrown at you. Perfect planning. These are not the tools you were expecting. Hey, perfect planning and authentic authority. Let's do the two together. Perfect planning talks about the fact that your planning should plan for everything. It should be perfect, which means it counts for the fact that you can't achieve your planning properly. So plan around it. So you have things happen in your day, yes, that you cannot possibly control. Who knew I was going to get a flat tire? Well, you drive a car. It's fairly likely at some point their flat tire will occur. So where in your planning had you put the fact that X might happen, something might happen, that you can plan around it? Now, you can't always plan for the unexpected, because that's the whole point. It's unexpected, but you know a certain amount of unexpected things are going to happen. We call that the predictability quotient. I've got it written down there somewhere. It's a way we came up with actually working out how predictable your week is. If your week is massively predictable, fantastic. You can then do the same week every week, no dramas at all. I had a client who was 90% unpredictable. So her week of 40 hours, 90% of it was putting out fires, of which she would not know what those fires were until they happened. So how do you plan around that? Well, you just make sure that when you plan meetings, you assume that you tell people that I may have to move this, and you only plan a very small amount of them so that you don't have to move them all the time. The planning becomes as perfect as you can make it. Authentic authority is speaking with authority. If you've got a gigantic goal, you're going to need to share it with people, and you should be able to share it with authority. So authentic authority talks about the fact that how to speak with confidence, how to look someone in the eye and deliver in a way that they get it and they're going to take your message home with them, built into their cellular level. My wife is a vocal coach, and she very much talks about how to get vibrations down to the cellular level so that when she sings, it actually gets in under your skin. You can tell because you get goosebumps. Understand what the money, where the money is going to come from, where the money is going to go, and how much you're going to need. So if you're usually, and I'm not saying all the time, but usually your gigantic goal isn't for $1 million. Usually your gigantic goal will be something else, something that $1 million might want to buy. So be careful about what you're looking for, so to make sure that you actually want it. But if your goal doesn't involve money, money is going to come into it at some point. Money is how we measure how things are flowing. And so understand that the money is going to be important. It may not be the number one thing, but it is definitely going to be important. And you're going to need to be able to tame some time. So get some good time management skills under your belt, and then practice and hone them, and then practice and hone them again. Find out what works for you and keep working on those particular tools. People with great time management skills will be able to fit in 10 times what other people without those tools can do. And I think I've got some on the next slide, so don't go anywhere. There is some coming. Business roadmap, really important. If you're this is part of the Australian Small Business Advisory Services, and there's not supposed to be any not-for-profits are here, but if you are a not-for-profit and you just happen to be watching, well done, you beat the system, welcome. You'll need a business roadmap too. So all businesses should have a roadmap. The roadmap is not your business plan. The roadmap is, where are you trying to take this beast? It's your map for the future, right? So your gigantic goal will have a roadmap. And we spoke about, gathering resources. We spoke about leaning on people, on other experts, leaning on people and asking them questions. Your business roadmap sets out where the steps are in that process. A whiteboard. Now we're getting down to some really specific stuff. A whiteboard and mind mapping. I love these tools. If you've got a lot of things going on in your head, just sit down for a while and just do a mind map of all the stuff that's going on. Once a year, I will do a mind map of all of the things that are going on. It's awesome. I get to see all the craziness that I've created. A whiteboard, and this is my personal philosophy. This is just the philosophy of Stu, if you like. Whiteboards are supposed to be white. So if you're filling a whiteboard with stuff and leaving it there for 3 weeks, that means you don't have space for anything more. So what I would suggest is, and this is for those that are really wanting to move their gigantic goal forward, use the whiteboard, use it regularly and rub it out regularly. Take photos of it if you need to, and then write what you need on it. Allow the whiteboard to be the place that you put good ideas. But if your whiteboard is full, no more ideas can go on it. So perfectionism, I've got a question about perfectionism. Perfectionism is one of those really interesting ones that they teach you about when you go through and do some coaching qualifications. Perfectionism is a lack of standards. So a true perfectionist won't know when to stop. They don't know what good enough is. And so they keep working and working and working. I had a guy working for me, a graphic designer. He could mock up 7 to 14 different designs for a logo in about 20 minutes. It was too much. The client couldn't pick. I said, right, you were so quick, I didn't mind. But then I said, you pick 3 and then present 3. So the way to quell your perfectionist side is to set limits on what is enough. So again, we'll just repeat, a perfectionist is someone who doesn't know when enough is enough. It just means they don't have any limits. They haven't put good boundaries in. For the person who asked the question, and I won't name and shame, does that answer a bit of a question for you? Can you see how that might work? Pomo to do. one of my favorite apps that I use, and I think it's on the next page as well, so much so, Pomo to do is, so the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato, and the Pomodoro technique is the idea of doing a 25 minutes of focused work with a 5-minute break. Do that 4 times and take a 15-minute break. Now, the true Pomodoro technique says that you should only do one task in that time. So let's say you do a task, it takes you 15 minutes, and you've put on your timer, and 15 minutes in, you're finished. Well, if you're going to do the proper Pomodoro technique, you spend the next 10 minutes working out how you could have done it better. You check for spelling mistakes. Let's say it's an email. You might convert that email into a template. You might add some stuff that you hadn't thought of. It has the proper Pomodoro technique has quality control and improvement built into it. So let's say the job takes you 40 minutes. So you spend 25 minutes doing it, take a 5-minute break, clear your head, get better, sharpen the saw, come back for the next period of time. So we've got 15 minutes left to do. Spend the 15 minutes, your job's now complete. Spend the rest of the time working out how you could have done it better. What else could you add? Now the temptation is to move on, and look, you're in charge of your own time, go for it. But if you get the chance and you do it right, I can absolutely tell you it makes a massive difference. When I have a week where I have done lots of Pomodoros, is the time period, and I've used the technique and done it properly, my week is massively more productive. Trello, the simplest project management tool I can get my hands on. I have a ridiculous amount of Trello boards because I have a Trello board for every edition of the magazine, a Trello board for every business. Some businesses have 3 Trello boards. I have Trello boards for staff members. It's super quick and easy to use. In fact, there's even an ASBAS webinar I saw someone is running on Trello, which I'm going to try and get to myself because I use it, but I probably don't use it to the best of its ability, but I use it a lot. It's available on your phone. It's free. I can't tell you. I use it to communicate with all my staff. So I have a number of remote staff that I use, and I use Trello almost I use it several times every single day with every single staff member. Google Drive, if you've got Google Drive, fantastic. If you want to use another one like OneDrive or whatever, make sure you've got somewhere on the cloud that you can keep all your stuff because you're going to want to share it with people, and this is the best way of doing it. Make sure it's already up there. If it's on Google Drive, it's pretty much impervious to hackers because they might, even if they get access to it and they lock it, you can roll that shit. You can roll that back. So, I use Google Drive to share all my stuff. It's all on the cloud. Take my laptop and throw it in the bin, and I'm good to go as soon as I get another one and log in. A vision board. Now, this is cool. There's actually some apps for that, and I think those are on the next page. So I'm going to keep moving. But understanding your vision and creating an actual vision board is such a cool thing. And remember, I said this before, variety brings creativity. So the two things that if you are struggling with a goal and you don't know how to progress, or you don't even have a goal and you want one, variety and solitude create creativity. So variety, if you only ever do what a coach does, say I'm a soccer coach, if I only ever hang around soccer coaches, I will only ever get to know what soccer coaches know. If I start hanging around lawyers, I get to know all sorts of weird stuff that I wouldn't have known had I not brought in some variety. And this is so important these days that coaches in sport, certainly the elite coaches, have to go and learn another sport. They have to go and coach. So in cricket, they bring the AFL coaches in. In AFL, they send their guys out to the basketball. The basketballers, they go out to the wheelchair basketballers. So everybody's learning from other sports, the intention being that variety brings creativity. It's not because we want to steal their stuff. It's because by seeing their stuff, I have more ideas in my head, and now I can create more things. So those are the first set of tools. Now I get into a little bit more geeky tools for those that really like the geeky tools. FreeMind, MindMeister or XMind. I've been a user of FreeMind for many, many years. It's a open source mind mapping tool. MindMeister is the premium deluxe paid for one. I've not used XMind, but I know it's gaining in popularity. If you want to do some mind mapping and you don't have a whiteboard, or you want to take it with you, you want to do more with it, pick one of these three. If you're going to do it a lot, I would say start with FreeMind. If you find mind mapping is a thing that you go to, it's one of your go-to tools, then pay for MindMeister. It's well worth it in that case. 5-minute journal, and it's an app. It will help you journaling and keep you clean. The reason I want to keep you clean, I want to keep your brain free. I don't want you to carry around lots of things in your head. Journaling is a way of putting stuff down. If you're carrying around an entire zoo of monkeys on your back, you cannot then go and lift the hippo, right? The only way you lift the hippo is if you put the monkeys down first. Do that with journaling. If you need to produce write stuff for your big, hairy, audacious goal, your gigantic goal, the most dangerous writing app. Now, I haven't put the URL because it's a long SourceForge one, but the most dangerous writing app will, if you use it, it will do your head in. It's awesome. It's so cool. What it does is, as you type, it only shows you the, sorry. If you use it, so the first thing it'll ask you is, do you want to use it for words? So say 250 or 1,000 words or 750 words, or do you want to use it for time? 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. What do you want to write for? So if you want to write 250 words, you hit go. If you stop typing for longer than about 5 seconds, it deletes it. So it makes you keep writing, and you see it start to fade as you stop. Now, there's an insane mode in there, and I'm going to tell you about it because I think it's even cooler. The insane mode only shows you the letter that you just typed. You don't even get to see what you've written. You cannot go back and reread. You have to keep writing. And it forces your brain in a way that it forces creativity. It forces you to go forward. And I have written stuff on that. And I hand on heart, I have used this when I've been up against a deadline and I need to produce something, and I'll bring this ridiculous app up and I will type in it. And I am convinced at the end of it, it's going to be rubbish. I'm so convinced. And I'll read it, and it's sometimes some of the most beautiful writing that I've ever done, because there's that poise, there's an element of of realness to it. And sure, I could go back and change it, but I tend not to, because if I read it, I go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And sure, there's some typos because I'm not perfect, but if you have to produce content, the most dangerous writing app. All right, let's keep moving. I did say there was an app called My Vision Board. Have check that out if you want to do a vision board on your app. I like the tangible old style one of getting a magazine, cutting out images. Be careful what you cut out. If you cut out a red Ferrari, well, they don't make that many colors of Ferrari, so red is going to be a natural choice. But let's say you particularly want an MX-5, you cut out a red one, your brain will start making sure a red one happens. The universe will point you in that direction. And even if you really wanted a blue one, but you put a red one on your vision board, guess which one you're going to get? AnyDo. Now, I've not used this one, but somebody told me that it's getting some good traction now. Any.do is an app for getting lots of little things done, regular tasks. Otter voice meeting notes. So this, if you have lots of meetings and you're working to your big, hairy goals, you want to not only have meetings, but take meeting notes. And remember what everybody says. Otter does this for you. It can tell who says what. So voice 1, voice 2, voice 3. And once you know that, you can actually have a fully transcribed meeting just using this particular app. Very, very cool. It also plugs into Zoom, so you can just transcribe your Zoom meetings. As I said, one of the most popular ones I use it every single day, Pomodoro. It sits on my phone, it sits on my computer, it is everywhere I go, and it is what I use for the day-to-day. This is what, I need to get that done. It also has the timer built in, and when I use the timer, I'm building in that, I'm doing it, 1, to create urgency, and 2, to build in that constant improvement. Trello, won't stop there because we've done that. Life Tick, Goal Buddy. You know, if you're trying to get goals, these are some ones that I have used in the past. Stick is about habits and how to get your habits in order. Of course, Milestone Planner, moving towards things and ticking things off as you go. You've got to play with these things. And as I said, I will send, you'll get a copy of this recording. I think they send out the meeting notes, the slides, as well as PDFs. Play with some of this stuff. Find what works for you. A tool is only there to improve you. If the tool doesn't work, get rid of it. If you can do it better with pen and paper, do that first. Journaling, do it pen and paper. You are not allowed to do journaling, proper journaling. I don't allow any of my clients to do journaling by typing. It changes the way it works. So you must be pen on paper. So a whole bunch of tools there. In terms of our group goals exercise, if we're in a room together, then we get to go and do some of this stuff. But given that you guys are all online and we don't have that much of interaction, what I would suggest is have a look at these 5 aspects. So 1 year from now, what will you be doing? How are you working towards that life that you really want? In terms of your home, are you looking to save or buy one? Are you paying it off? Where will you be? Are you happy with your current living conditions? And if you're not, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to be doing home improvements? And what happens at the end of those? I like to ask the end questions. Are there any debts you wish to pay off in terms of your finances? Do you actually understand where all your money is going? Is there something specifically you are saving up for? And what will happen? What will you save for next? What will happen when you paid off your debts? Where do you want to go? What is your big goal in all of these things? How does your big goal relate to these things? Are you in a happy relationship? Are you married and happy, or are you thinking of changing? How much value are you getting from those relationships around you right now? Do you think they'll be there in 5 years? Would you like them to be there in 5 years? It's really tough to say 5 years now, guys. I apologize because I don't tend to talk in terms of 5 years, really. And it's only gigantic goals that's giving me this idea of grandeur. I tend to talk in terms of 1 year. If you can work out where you need to be in 1 year, you're doing great. Because, you know, COVID. You know, I really love that saying. If you want to make God laugh, make a plan. I just think that's awesome. If you want to make God laugh, make a plan. Oh, you think that's going to happen? Oh, really? COVID. Damn it. Didn't see that coming. Nice one. Well played. Have a think about what you can achieve in 1 year and how your big goal fits in with that. How do you want to feel 1 year from now? What parts of your personality do you want to develop? This is a really cool one, and I'm going to finish up in a sec, but I do want to delve into this for just a second, because one of the things that I do see from time to time is this idea that people do personality profiles, and I'm this. Fantastic. That may be your dominant thing, but you can do all of them, and I can prove it. You know, if you think about your gigantic, hairy, audacious goal, your gigantic goal right now, and you take it on as a detail-focused person. Now, if you already are a detail-focused person, you 100% know that. But if you're not, how would that change? If detail was your number one priority, your number one value, what would you do differently? Now, if you're a detail person, what would you do if relationships was your number one priority and caring for people? How would that change what you do? What if big picture was the number one value for you? How would that change what you do? What if the cash payout was the number one priority for you? How would that change what you do? Now, I'm going through this really quickly, and I realize because I'm coming up on time that that's probably not very fair. But if you think about each of those, you could 100% give me an answer about how it would change. And if you know the answer already without me telling you, that means you can be that when you need to be. This is the power of values. This is the power of understanding your personality, is that you can be anything you want to be when you need to be for a short period. That doesn't mean, that money is the most important thing for you, and so money has to be the most important thing for you for all time. No. But if you start thinking about your resources, money should be pretty important, because you're going to need it, and you're going to need to use it and spend it well. You need to be able to get it. You need to ask for it. It has to be important for a period of time. And you can do all of these things. That's the power of these personalities, is that you have the ability to be all of the values. I've got a sheet here somewhere that it's got something like, 120 different values on it. And apart from the ones that you don't understand, you could 100% change the way you do a task based on each one of those. So if you can do that, then you get the choice. And I think that's much more empowering than being pigeonholed into a box and, making excuses. Well, I can't do that because I'm a type B personality. All right. It sounds like I feel like I'm on my soapbox again, so I'm going to get off. Let's have a look at your homework. Take over the world. It's easy, isn't it? Or at least your little corner of it. Your gigantic goal should inspire people. It should inspire you. And you absolutely can do it. I've just talked to you about not only the tools that you can use, but the parts of yourself that you haven't even tapped into yet. Tap into those legends around you, those giants. Tell them the story and stand on their shoulders. Gather the resources that you need. Today, there are websites that are cheap and easy. Phone numbers are basically free. You have everything you need to achieve everything you want. If you want to get to Mars, no dramas at all, we can do it. I remember I got let go from what I thought was my ultimate job. I was setting up IT companies in multiple corners of the planet, and I was absolutely loving it. I got let go, and it hit me pretty hard. And then I found deathclock.com. Death Clock is a website that you put in your age and your weight and your family history, and then it puts up a timer and starts counting down to your death. And I was so excited because it told me I had about 40 years to go. And I cannot think of a single project that would take me 40 years. If you want me to build a rocket ship to get to Mars, it's not going to take me 40 years. I could build a pyramid in less time. So time is this idea. And I understand when I tell some people this story, they go, oh, it's so morbid. Yeah, no, it's not. You're going to die. That's 100% guaranteed. The choice is, what are you going to do with the time that you got left? Take over the world, or at least your little corner of it. I'm going to stop the recording there. I hope this has been as beneficial for you as I hope it would have been. If you have particular questions, I'm going to hang around for those that are with me live. But for those that you aren't, and I will see you on another ASBAS webinar very, very soon.